but it worked the same way. So the hoist is in here. This is basically where we're standing. And it would turn and it would run the cable over a series of pulley towers to this track here. Now they moved the track is actually just turned 90 degrees from where we're standing right now. So they use these special rock skips with the smaller wheels in the front and the larger wheels in the back. So when it would get to the top, it would create, the large wheels would catch and it would create a natural dumping motion. So this one would be here and this one will be down here, and they would go back and forth like this, which is why the cable was wound from the top and from the bottom, so they could pull both at once. The drum itself would rotate about 32 revolutions per minute, which is about 1.5 rotations every 3 seconds, which would cause these to go about 36 miles an hour. And that's 10 ton of rock traveling at 36 miles an hour. When they came time for the men to go down or come up during shift change, they would put this man car on. It held 30 men, 3 across 10 deep. And they would slow it down to about 15 miles an hour for the men. But that's still really fast, considering that you're going almost straight down. Yeah, it's on an angle, but that's straight down to me. And that's with rock or about 1.5 feet from your face in the dark. So it was pretty terrifying. So from here, the rock would get dumped. And if you look at it, you can see the big round rusted part. There's a series of grinders in there that would break the rock down to about this big, a little bit bigger than your fist. And it would get dumped into a rail car, which is actually what that crane is doing. They moved a rail car from that was sitting back here up there so they could demonstrate it a little bit better. And that would go, it would fill up the rock and that would go out to Torch Lake, which is out in Mason, where the stamp mill was, and that's where they would actually excavate the copper from the rock. And then they would dump the rest into the lake. About half as deep as it originally was, because they dumped so much rock into it. They did do a reclaiming process in the 60s, and they were able to pull out about another 100,000 pounds of copper that they initially missed. So there's definitely a lot of copper in the area still, even though they're not necessarily mining it. Before the main car, there was this contraption called the man engine. So a man would stand on a platform, he would be lowered down, and he would jump from platform to platform. He had about 1.5 seconds to do that before, hitting his level. So yeah, he would ride that all the way down. And then before that, it was just ladders. So here's a picture of the man engine. Here's a picture of the man car over there. Wow. The ladder, it would take about an hour to get down. Excuse me, about 1.5 hours to get up, and that was all unpaid time. And that's working, drilling for 10 hours and then climbing up the ladder for 1.5 hours. So it was very strenuous. So by the time the man car came into play, they were pretty excited, even though it was a little terrifying. And that was also by that point the strike had happened, or was about to happen, so they went down to 8-hour days. Quincy was kind of kicking themselves. A lot of the mines were, because they realized with these 8-hour days, they were able to do 24 hours a day as opposed to 20 hours a day, so they were actually getting 4 more hours of work. Oh, I should have been doing this the whole time. You guys are happier, we're making more money, so. Any questions so far? If you guys have any questions, just go ahead and holler them out. The 2 bolts. The 2 bolts are holding on the brake pad. This is a brake pad. They used a special type of wood. This is basswood. It was cheap. It grew around here a lot, and it was a soft wood, so it wouldn't glaze over. Now if you use a hardwood that would glaze over, they would get too slick and it wouldn't break. So they use this. If you look around at old pictures of when they were really in their boom, there's no vegetation around here at all. They completely wiped the entire area. Whether it was for parts such as this, whether it was for fuel or it was for housing, they completely wiped everything out. So a lot of the vegetation that's around here now is not indigenous to this area, but it was quick growing, so they're able to reforest fairly quickly. And obviously, well, if you look around outside, there were 5 men who worked in this house. 4 of them were oilers. Their job was to go around and fill up all of these oil caps. There was over 800 of them. So by the time that they were done filling them up, they'd have to go back and refill them. If they weren't doing that, they were polishing everything. Now things have been painted and the railings have been replaced, but originally this was all shiny steel, very well polished. All of the railings were all brass, like the brass railing that's at the bottom of that staircase. They kept everything very clean, very shiny. Again, this is where they brought their investors, so they really wanted to make a statement with everything that they did. Man number 5 was the hoist operator. He would sit up on that top platform, and his main focus was on those giant dials. Those are called miniatures, oddly enough. They worked sort of like a clock. The white hand would travel around and would tell him what level the skip was on, and the red hand would travel and tell him within 300 feet of where that skip was at. These ones are a little inaccurate. They have all 92 levels on there, but originally they would only run about 12 levels at a time, so they would only have the levels that they were running on there. I think just whoever made that was just to show how many levels there were. Any questions? Without killing anyone or destroying any of the copper. So he had this to help him. This is called a Lily Hoist controller. It's basically an analog computer. So he would hear this bell, and he would have 10 seconds to slow it down. If he didn't get it slowed down within 10 seconds, he would hear this bell. And that's called a retardation bell. And what that would do was it would stop the whole system. So it would automatically break and they would have to reset everything. So he really needed to find that fine line between being able to push production and not have us go off. So communication was obviously really important. This was a preferred job, so everyone who worked in here was all Cornish, so they were purely English speaking. So when the telephone came around, everyone was very excited, and Quincy was really quick to jump on the ball and install telephones throughout the entire mine, until they realized that there was about 15 different languages being spoken underground, and there was only English being spoken up here. So they went from, you guys can follow me this way. So they went from a series of bells to the telephone. The bells didn't come into play, or the telephone didn't stay around too long. That's what one of the original bells would sound like. When electricity came around, they used electric lights, and then they used the telephone as electric bells. So they weren't able to vocally speak to each other because everyone spoke different languages. But they would use this as sort of a Morse code, and then they would be able to post this in whatever language was necessary, and then they would just post it on whatever level they needed it to be on. So if a man was hurt, or if a manager or supervisor needed to come up to the surface for any reason, instead of taking the time to take off the rock skip, put the man car on, they would just put him in a rock skip, tell the hoist operator, and he would slow it down and raise him up. So if the hoist operator did not understand your Italian, Finnish, Norwegian, Irish, so on and so on, he would then stop it at a higher level and dump 10 ton of rock on you. So communication was really important. This steam hoist only ran about 11 years. It was ran from 1920 to 1931. They stopped during the Great Depression because the price of copper plummeted, as did the price of pretty much everything. So when World War II came around, and they were able to, the economy stabilized a little bit. The shaft was deemed unsafe, and it was also filling up with water. So they didn't want to use the money to bail out the water, and also it was unsafe for their workers. So the mine shut down in 45 for good. This originally cost just under $372,000, which direct correlation to today's money would be about 4 to 6 million. But a project of this size nowadays would be between 60 and 100 million. So it's pretty impressive. They did not make their money back because it ran for such a short amount of time. But they were able to break such barriers that they still consider it a win, because they were able to go deeper, longer, stronger, harder, so on and so on. So they still consider it a win. Like I said, they built the house first, so this entire thing was assembled here in this building. So they brought every piece of the entire thing through the door behind you. So lots and lots of pieces. The drum itself was in 36 pieces. So it was pretty intense. Any questions?